This is Pastors Live, a Rev FM production podcast. Join Pastors Dave, Ty, and Shane for a fresh, fun, and often unpredictable take on faith, the Bible, and the world around us.
Hey everybody, it's Pastors Live. It's Friday. It's January 9th. Yesterday was a healthy commit to a national healthy commit. I'm trying. I really am. You know what? I washed my tongue. I can't seem to do a thing with it.
There it is.
So yesterday was National Commit to a Healthier Plan Day. Well, today is National Quitters Day. So if you decided you were going to start to be healthy yesterday, you can quit today.
Yeah.
But apparently, Dave was saying before the mics went hot, apparently today is the day that most people quit their New Year's resolution.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So...
why did I buy the treadmill?
Why did I buy that treadmill?
To hang your clothes on. That's I bought the treadmill to hang clothes on.
That's where the laundry goes.
That's
right. I just wrote an article at the beginning of the week for the February newsletter, and we talk about National Quitters Day.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I wrote a couple different articles about helping our kids deal with fear.
There you go.
And so the Monster Under the Bed, part 1 and 2.
Right.
So we hope that blesses people. But we've got some wonderful guys in the studio. First of all, we do have Gary Austin, the voice of the Valley, the man,
Pastors.
the legend. And by the way, we'd love to hear from you. Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. We do have comments and questions that we need to get to, but we've got some guests in the studio. We're actually getting behind, and so that's really interesting. Great Bible readings today. We definitely want to maybe take a look at some of that as well. But we also have Pastor Davis here.
God bless you guys.
I'm Pastor Ty. Pastor Shane is actually doing some ministry, so he's not in the studio with us today. But we also have, it's Dave Squared today.
Right.
And so we have another special Dave who's here from CUFI, which is Christians United for Israel. And on yesterday's program, we didn't say, hey, how can people get a hold of you? So let's start there today. So how can people get a hold of you or get involved in CUFI because, and find out about trips and things like that? How does that happen? So
Hey, great to be with you guys, and I love what you guys do. Good question. So there's several ways. That person who's really interested in what is Christians United for Israel and how can I know more, simply go to CUFI.org. You'll find all kinds of great information about history and what it's about. It's a very informative website. You can also contact me, Pastor Dave, at deerflat.org or dave.mcgarrah, McGarrah, at CUFI.org. And write me and ask me whatever you'd like to know. I'm very good at getting back to people, so I encourage you to do that.
Now, Dave, yesterday we had lunch with a bunch of local pastors here in Southeast Idaho area, and we gave them the book, Why Israel? And I have a few extra copies of that. Would that be okay to, if somebody were to write in and say, hey, I'd like to get that book, Why Israel? Are you cool if I give that to them?
Totally, yeah. I think we need to get the word out.
Yeah. Why Israel, Dave?
Yeah. I was going to say, Dave, if you don't ask the question, I'm going to. Yeah.
Here's a softball for Dave McGarrah.
Right. Here you go.
Why Israel?
Well, I've got to get that book and read it. I guess,
Yeah, that's like when you go in, you're going to interview somebody about a book they wrote, but you actually hadn't read it yet. So
my ghostwriter did that. I haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. My ghostwriter was amazing. Yeah.
That is a great question. Well, you know what? Here's the truth. The bottom line is that Israel is the timepiece for the world, and everything starts and stops with Israel. People don't realize that. They think it's this little tiny place over there in the Middle East, but it plays an enormous role, and why Israel will lead a person actually to knowing God.
Yeah.
If they really do the homework. But why should we care about Israel? It's a biblical mandate, really, that's issued from God. It's His chosen people. He's created a land specifically for them. He looks out for them, has made covenants and promises specifically to them, for them, which is really under fire these days, by a lot of Christians and churches, because they don't believe, that modern Israel is biblical Israel. They don't believe that, Israel plays a prophetic role in the future, and that God, because they rejected Christ, He has replaced them with the church.
Right.
So it's a really important book.
It is. I love that book, by the way. It's interesting, Pastor Ty, in our reading today in Genesis 9 and 10, we have the Noahic covenant, and then, of course, Kufi and the work that they do and that we stand behind. Man, you pick it up in Genesis 12, 3 chapters later, we're going to have the Abrahamic covenant. But when we see the Table of Nations in chapter 10 and all of this, God begins to disperse, if you will, the people, right? So you have Ham, Shem, and Japheth, the 3 sons of Noah, and they're going to move out. But why Israel is so interesting to us. You mentioned it yesterday, Dave. And by the way, for our listeners, if you missed yesterday's podcast, get the app for your phone for Rev Radio. And Gary, they can just put in the Rev.fm or how do they get the app for their phone?
Just go to the Play Store or the Apple store and just do the Rev.
Yeah,
right.
Or check Spotify.
Yeah, check Spotify.
And then they can pull up previous episodes.
Right.
Yep. So be sure to listen to yesterday's episode with the great conversation between Pastor Ty and Pastor Dave Magera. But God enters human history through this place. And it's interesting. And not because they're great or powerful, righteous, obedient.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, they're a mess.
They're a mess. They're the least of the least. Why does he do it that way, do you think, you guys?
It's a great question. He, for whatever reasons, chose that this guy, 14 generations from creation, he finally finds a guy who says, hey, this is going to be my guy. And through him is going to be something that blesses the nations of the world. I mean, think about that. Yeah. And so...
Because that's the end of verse 3 that we sometimes forget to mention, right? I'll bless those that bless you and curse those that curse you. And through you, all the families of the world will be blessed.
Yeah. And what sounds like a phenomenal promise and covenant that God enters into with them, think about the reality of that. They are tasked with being a light to the world.
Yeah.
Think about that. I mean, that's no light thing to carry.
No.
And then, by the way, you're going to be telling all the nations of the world of your time that you guys are wrong and we're right. You are polytheistic, we are monotheistic, right. We are right and you're not. There's only one God. So think about that.
Everybody's going to love that message.
Yeah, they've got to, and by the way, I want you to dress this certain way. I want you to stay away from these foods. Don't eat the same thing.
You're going to be a separate people.
Exactly. Yep. And so there's kind of, if you will, and I say this respectfully, kind of a weirdo category.
Yeah, right.
Because they're going to wear things that are noticeably different. They're going to have tassels. They're going to have head coverings. Not that head coverings were, unusual, but the way
the phylacteries were unusual.
Yes.
Yeah.
What is that box on your forehead?
What's the box on your forehead? What's the box on your head?
So when you look at these things, many times, we'll read the Bible, and that's different than studying the Bible. So we don't even think about these things. But the task that they were given and what God laid upon them, and they were to hold the Word of God carefully so that it stayed accurate across the years. And so they are tasked with an enormous responsibility. And you know what? Because they were faithful, Christianity was birthed out of that.
There it is.
And through them comes our Messiah. Through them comes all the great things of Christianity. And within 100 years, we pretty much cut off the Jewish roots of our Christianity. And I think the church has paid for it in amazing ways across the centuries for doing that. But most people don't even know that.
Well, and what that's called in our world today, if for those of you who are not familiar, there's a thing called replacement theology, where basically the premise is that once the church was born, there's no need for Israel, and Israel's now the villain in the story, because obviously Israel They were responsible for what happened with Jesus, and so they've lost blessings and things like that. I would like to point something out. There's a couple things, first of all, that go through my mind when I think about, and this is going to be really basic. I'm not going to get really deep into this. I'm just going to make this point. But first of all, Israel has been given unconditional covenants by God. Okay, that's very, very important. Genesis 17 is super clear, which is part of the Abrahamic covenant, which leads to 2 Samuel 7, which is the Davidic covenant, because Dave mentioned a covenant a moment ago, right? It started with the Adamic covenant, then the Noahic covenant, then moved to the Abrahamic covenant. And then the issue is there's a consistent witness within the prophets. Right, that you that is consistent, and Jesus and the apostles also were consistent witnesses to that as well. And then there's there's theological, there's educational implications when we consider this, because when you start removing Israel from the promises, what scares me more than anything else, and Dave, I'm sure you've heard this, is when people want to receive Israel's promises but not Israel's curses, right? And that's the one that really troubles me a lot. When somebody says, "Oh, and we're going to use this verse," the one that always makes me crazy. Well, first of all, that whole saying, "I can do anything," with the verse taken out of context, right? But it's that. Oh, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. It was the 2 Chronicles. Is that
7:14?
Yeah. And so I hear that all the time, and we have a tendency to lay that upon our nation, and not realize, hey, that was for God's people, and I'll be honest with you, I'm still kind of waiting for that. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray. And we talked about that a moment ago. There's so many secular, or was it yesterday? There's so many secular people in Israel. They have yet to call out to Messiah, but we have prophecy that lets us know that at some point they will cry out to him, and they will look to him who they have pierced, and they will turn back to Jesus, who is their Messiah and their deliverer. And so I think it's really interesting how sometimes we get things muddled up because we want to take we want to take blessings upon us as the church that really do belong to Israel still, because they're unconditional covenants. God made the covenant, and just like grace does not require work, his promises to them do not require perfection from them. And just like every nation in the world, there's corruption.
Yeah.
And I do think, and I really appreciated what you said. I think it's, I think it's okay that we can be critical of, and observe and go, man, what's going on there? It's just, that's really.
Yeah. Was that the best decision?
Was that the best decision? Was that wise? And I think that's okay to have that,
Totally.
And I think some people feel like sometimes when Christians talk about supporting Israel, it's this blanket, well, just support them no matter what they do. I think that we have to step back and go, hold on a second. There's reality of right and wrong behavior that I think we can address too.
Yeah.
And I think I mentioned this to you, Dave. Pastor Ty and I, along with our wives, we're leading a tour of Israel this coming June. Unfortunately, we are full. We are capped out, and we are now creating a wait list.
And
for
18
folks.
months from then,
and then we go in November.
We'll go again,
we'll go again in November of 2027. 2027.
Is it 27?
Yeah, we go in November of 2027.
Oh, that is 18 months.
Right.
Sorry, it's a little slow.
And no, it's okay. But our tours, when we go, it's a Bible study tour.
Yeah.
And we're Calvary Chapel. We love the Word of God. We love the Bible.
Yep.
And we love Israel. I mean, that's part of our DNA in Calvary Chapel. You love the Bible. You love Israel. And so when we go, we're looking almost exclusively at biblical sites. That's what we want. And this year, for the first time, we're going to Petra.
Yeah.
You've never been, right?
I have not been to Petra. However,
I
have downloaded the Indiana Jones music.
Oh, well, then you're good.
Either on my way in or my way out, that's got to be playing. So I'm just saying,
You gotta love Petra.
You've been to Petra?
Yeah.
Do you ride the horse in or do you ride the horse out? Because I know
do
at some
both.
point. Oh, you can do both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know at some point we're riding horses. I just don't know.
By the time you walk all the way in there, you're going to want to ride a horse out. You know?
How many miles is it in?
Oh, you can go a long ways back in there. The vast majority of people only go to a certain place.
They probably just go to the treasury, or
Yeah.
the library. Yeah.
But there's a lot to see there, and the history there is just so amazing.
Right.
Right.
You're going to love it.
Well, that's just that thought of 40 horses walking out together. I'm just, the Idaho kids are going to be like, these aren't horses. These are pack horses. They're just packing us out.
Right.
We're not riding the horses out. We're just getting packed out on horses.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Exactly.
So,
but the thing is, I love it because while we're there, I love taking people for the first time because the three of us have seen it when you can see it in the eyes.
Oh, yeah.
When that light bulb goes on and people realize, my goodness, I am in the land. And this is something I love that you, Dave, you and Bob Scott from CUFI both said a number of times while we were there. It was, if it isn't here, it's near. And so like when we're at the Mount of Beatitudes, it's like, did he preach the Sermon on the Mount here, or was it a half mile that way? Was it a mile that way? I don't know. If it isn't here, it's near. But then there's the places where you're like, look, you're on the Sea of Galilee. You're on the Dead Sea. This is for real.
Yeah.
There's no question.
Yeah.
Jerusalem's Jerusalem.
yeah.
Capernaum is Capernaum.
Yep.
And there are some places that are like, somewhere around here these things happen. But what's so cool, what's so beautiful is when you see the light go on in people's eyes.
Yeah, God moments are going to happen. You just don't know when.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah, last time we were there, we actually didn't get into. We were in Capernaum, and we didn't get a chance to actually go into the synagogue because there were some folks that were
monopolizing.
They were tripping, God bless them. But
God
you know what?
bless them,
We've seen that. We've seen that too.
We were like barely inside and around the edges because this group was like hovering over the first century section,
the floor,
and then they were weeping and wailing and gnashing of teeth.
It's an interesting thing too, because I think that there's that disconnect sometimes where we forget going to Israel is about Jesus for us as the church.
Right.
And a lot of people misunderstand the Old Testament covenants because they misunderstand Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Mm-hmm. And so they misunderstand that this is the bridge leading to the birth of the church in Acts 2, where those are Old Testament fulfillments. I mean, Jesus is the Old Testament fulfillment.
Yeah.
And because of that, I think sometimes we miss out on that. So if we're not looking at Jesus, and I love the sites and I love going there because first of all, I love archaeology. I love digging in the dirt ever since I was a kid.
I mean, honestly, if I hadn't gone into the pastorate, I think I would go into archaeology.
Yeah. And I've considered, doing more of that and going and doing some of those things because you can go and work. Mm-hmm. But as I think about this, we forget sometimes when you go to the land, you're going to the land that's pointing us back to Jesus, and that's that promise. But these are God's people. God chose a people. We were talked about that, I think, yesterday's program. God chose a people.
Yeah.
And the psalmist says God is in heaven and can do as he pleases. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people struggle with that when they get to Romans 9, 10, and 11. God chose a people. Why did he choose a people? Because he chose them. But he also almost started over as well.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, Moses, I'm just going to start over with you. This is right. Like, and Moses is like, hey, it's going to be bad for your image if you kill everybody and start there's some reality that God just chose a people.
I always crack up when I hear that conversation because it's like, Moses, he's done it once. He did it with Noah. Right?
Yeah.
Genesis 6, 7, and 8. He did it once, Moses, so I don't think it's going to hurt God's reputation, but I love Moses' argument. He's very Jewish. It's not going to look so good for you.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. So let's rethink this. But obviously there's people that obviously Moses cares about, and that's the interceder. Mm-hmm. He's interceding for the people that he actually does care about.
Absolutely.
Even though they're the golden calf worshipers, right?
Yeah.
But that's when God reveals himself as the Hesed Va'emet, the God who is merciful and full of truth, right? And so you can't miss that. And I think there are times that when we're in Israel, we can become sight oriented. In other words, and what I remember about that is they were looking at the ground and not looking for his coming.
Right.
And that's Abrahamic righteousness, which is the idea of looking for Messiah. So like when we're there, it's like, yes, this is what's going on the ground. This is what's the reality that's here. But remember to look up for Messiah. Look for the coming of Messiah. And so for us, we're looking for the coming of Jesus, who is their Messiah, but we're still looking for the coming of Jesus. Right. And I'm excited for that day. Yeah.
Well, it's wonderful when we're on the Mount of Olives, which is an interesting place because there's not an olive tree to be found because of all of the graves.
Right, yeah.
But to realize, hey, we're on the Mount of Olives. There's no question about that. And as you said, and we talked about it when we were there 8 weeks ago, 12 weeks ago, whenever it was. This is where Jesus is coming back, right here.
Right.
And if you go to the land and you don't keep your eyes fixed on Jesus, then it's just a vacation. It's just a trip.
Yeah, right.
Right. But if you go and your eyes are fixed on Christ, like you were saying, Pastor Ty, it changes everything. It changes everything. It changes everything about your trip, and it changes everything about your purpose. And what changes us now is that clock. I know. Look at that clock.
I know. That doesn't
Gary,
mess around.
You got to do something about this clock. It keeps telling us that we're out of time.
Right?
I know.
Understand.
Pressure.
Well, and Dave dropped something there at the end I want to make sure that people have some biblical references for. First of all, Zechariah 14:4 is the Old Testament conversation about the Mount of Olives. But also Acts chapter 1, verses 9 through 12, he says this very same Jesus will return in like manner. And so just so you're aware, there's some verses you can connect to that and put that in there in your Bible study. If you have questions about the things we're talking about, Pastors Live at the Rev.fm, Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. If you have questions about CUFI, it's CUFI.org. Or you can reach us out to us here at the radio station, and we can connect all the dots too. So
and if you're in the Caldwell area, Deer Flat Church, what time are services this Sunday?
9 and 10:45.
There you go.
There you go. All right, listen, you're loved, your family. God bless you. We'll talk to you on Monday.
You've been listening to Pastors Live, a Rev FM production podcast. Join us again for more Bible talk, laughter, and unexpected tangents. Questions or feedback? Pastors Live at the Rev.fm. And don't forget to subscribe and leave a review.